This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
You know, when people reach out and ask for help and it's something as simple as, hey, shipping her a box of tampons.
The one thing about this girl is she's never asked me for anything. She may have hinted about tampons.
The 6th of October, 2020, the 217 Recovery Podcast. My name is Corey Winfield. In studio with me today is not Marnie. No, she got beat in fantasy football by my team, and she is dodging me. But there's a special treat coming up on Thursday where she's actually going to host the podcast because we made a bet, and that was the bet. Like, she wanted me to go swim in some swimming pool with my nieces when they come visit next weekend, and I don't know, because I don't like to get into pools with pee. And so that was, she wanted me to get into a pool with pee. I wanted her to host a podcast. You know, who's the loving one in that relationship? It's me. And that's fine. That's fine, you know. I won, but yeah, she's kind of ghosting us. But George, my friend George is in the studio with me tonight. Hey, George, how you doing?
What's up, Corey? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Got you a 217 Recovery Podcast sweater. I guess it's not a sweater, it's more of a hoodie.
Yeah, the gear's dope. I like it. I like the colors, the black and the orange on it. That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel not that bad about making you buy it.
Yeah.
Because you walked in and I'm like, hey, man, toss it to you. You're like, cool. And I'm like, yeah, you know, $30.
You did a great job. It's nice. Love it.
No, I'm glad that you're here. I've been wanting to have you on the podcast for quite some time, and there was a few times it was close, but it just didn't work out, and everything happens for a reason. I think tonight is the perfect night, especially since Marnie's dodging the whole podcast because she's sulking over the fantasy football loss, and here you go. You're in the league as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I believe you've got the best of me at once, too, already, so I'll be gunning for you next time, though.
Yeah,
I'm coming.
That's the attitude you have to have. And
Absolutely.
hopefully Marnie listens to this and can kind of learn from that, you know, that sportsmanship of, hey, you know, you're going to lose to the big dog. You know, this is what happens. And, you know, he's the one who started the league. Oh, it's kind of a coincidence he's got the best team. You know, well, is it?
We'll see.
Maybe he's really good at fantasy football. I don't know. I mean,
I think you got skills, for sure.
I start listening in May.
Yeah.
And I just build up And that's the thing about fantasy football, and that's not what we're going to talk about. Well, I mean, we're talking about it now, but you'll listen to these shows, at least I do, and you hear these guys, and they'll jump on guys, and and I catch names, you know, like new guys. I like to hear names, and then I do my own research, and like, oh, this Antonio Gibson guy, he's the real deal, but he plays for Washington, and they suck. So when is his time? And now it kind of looks like he's, you know, and I drafted him. So it's like he's just been on my bench waiting. And now it's like, oh, look at my stuff. And works out pretty well. But, yeah, be careful of listening to advice from people. And especially guys that are on a podcast.
True.
Yeah. But, George, you are in recovery.
I am.
And we met at a treatment center. Mm-hmm. We weren't in treatment together.
Right.
We would have had a blast.
Right.
But we did meet at a treatment center, and you have over 90 days.
I do.
And so you're eyeing that 6 month, or probably just eyeing today and tomorrow, you know, just to get through today.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest challenge? Like, you got out of treatment.
So the biggest challenge for me is finding a new way to live. You know, I lived a certain way for so long. You know, I had been in and out of active addiction for well over a decade. So, you know, feeling emotions again, getting out, trying to start a healthy life. And sometimes that's tough because what I used to do was second nature to me pretty much. So, it's been difficult finding new hobbies, new things to do. And you just kind of hit it on the head. I do a day at a time. I go to a lot of meetings. I reach out. I stay plugged into my support network. And I think to answer your question, that's been the hardest thing is figuring out what kinds of things I really like to do without substances. So that's been my biggest challenge.
And you've had some clean time in the past, though, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this time, I assume you're going to do it different because things weren't kind of working last time. And we had kind of talked about that before, too, where it's like, you know, you got to kind of dive in and, you know, make this a priority. And it sounds so cheesy when we say it sometimes, but, you know, when people were telling me that, you know, after rehab, like, you got to make this, like, the most important thing in your life. And I'm like, yeah, I am, man. You know, but I wasn't. I don't know if that was just me not giving up on, well, you know, in 5 years, you know, I'll move to California or move away and nobody will know and I'll drink again, man. Man, I'll drink. I'll be fine. You know, so maybe I had that reservation. And I know I did have that reservation for a long time of not being okay with just I'm never going to drink again.
Yeah, that's that could be a tough pill to swallow. I mean, for me, as being in recovery as an addict, alcoholic, I always, you know, to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, I always did have reservations, and I always had, you know, in my mind, I was just an addict. I was a drug user to where alcohol was okay, though. You know, if I went out to the bar on the weekend to go hang out, that wasn't a big deal because I could put that down. So I always had reservations, and obviously it didn't work. And there's some other things that I never did either. I never picked up a sponsor. I never got into step work, which I'm just starting to get into. I believe that it's helpful, and everybody's got a different opinion on how that works, and that's fine. I feel like whatever works for you, and that's what you have to do. I don't feel like there's a roadmap for each individual to recovery. I think that everybody's journey is a little bit different, and that's what I'm trying to do this time. I guess at this point I'm trying everything because I desperately do not want to go back to that active addiction. I mean, it's just a miserable life, and I'm doing whatever I can to stay clean at this point.
Yeah, I love going to AA meetings. I don't work the steps myself. I have in the past, but I also tried different ways and, you know, different pathways. And you go into it with an open mind, and it's a lot of fun, you know, learning what's working for other people and to not have that closed-mindedness of you got to do it this way or no way or you're going to fail and you're going to relapse. And there was a guy that was telling people that kind of stuff, and he was actually in the detox center, and he was telling this guy, he's like, AA is the only way, and it's the only. I'm like, wait, you heard that from a dude in detox? What was he doing there? Was he visiting? Was he hosting a meeting? He's like, no, man, he was in there. I'm like, so that is bad advertising, you know? And it's whatever works for you, like you said, George. You know, like whatever's working for you, and that you're open minded. And you're looking at other things, and you're trying different things. That's cool. It's fun. You meet new people. And, you know, like we go to the Charlevoix meeting from time to time. You know, it's a little bit of a trip, but it's fun. You know, like I look forward to those trips. You know, it's about an hour or so drive, and, you know, we just kind of talk and kick it and kind of get some stuff out that, you know, we can't maybe at the meeting, but, you know, just as you and I as friends, we can talk about. And talking about things, for me, was huge too. You know, I used everybody as a therapist. You know, I'll tell you a little bit, I'll tell Marnie a little bit, I actually tell my therapist a little bit of the little bit, and it helps get it off my chest where I'm not sitting there just all day. And when it's coming at you hardcore, you get out of treatment and you're like, all right, I'm going to do this, and all of a sudden it's just like people throwing snowballs at you almost. You know, it's like pop, 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 hitting you, and you're just like, I'm not ready. And to just kind of calm down and to talk about it, I think is really a big thing. So George, let's find out about you, man.
Okay.
Have you ever mailed anybody tampons?
I can't say that I have. I heard you have, though.
No. That wasn't me.
Okay.
Has a woman ever asked you for anything?
Has a woman ever asked me for anything? Yes. Yes,
Okay.
they have.
You
Yep.
don't have to go into details. Just the questions from a friend of ours, Captain Savaho. You know, those are the Savaho questions, and of course, he opened the podcast with his intro.
Right.
Yeah, that was
I don't have that cape, though.
Well, good. You don't want the cape.
I don't.
No, and if you're just listening for the first time, the open was from a friend of mine, Dustin, who was on a different podcast that we had started kind of spin off of this one called Podcast Nation, and Dustin had a big heart, but little funds. And he wanted to go to Walmart because this woman was calling him saying that she needed some tampons, and he wanted to help. And I was like, Dustin, what are you doing? You don't even have money to pay rent. What are you doing, man? Oh, she really needs them. And I was like, all right, well, we'll take you there and we'll give you money to buy them, but you got to wear this cape that we're making. And we made him a cape and Captain Sable.
Nice.
And if you go to our Facebook page, I believe we have pictures on there of him actually buying them in his cape, and it was good. It was fun for us. And people might be like, why would you do that? You're such a jerk, Corey. Hey, nice to meet you. Glad you could know who I am. No, but we have fun with it, though. We really do. And I'm not saying that she was a hoe. It's just an expression. Right. And
sure.
Like I said, we had to bust Dustin's balls a little bit and fun and recovery.
Sure.
And that's what we do. But so George, but for real though, like where are you from? Where'd you grow up, man?
I grew up in Detroit and went to school in Dearborn, Michigan. Went to high school in Dearborn, and yeah, I'm from the Detroit area. Mm-hmm. And
then because you told me your story before, a little bit about your growing up and stuff, but mom, dad divorced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so at a pretty young age, I think I was 4 or 5, barely old enough to remember the scenario, but I did. It's still a memory, and it was a really hard one for me. I love my dad. My dad was everything to me at that young age, and that was tough, and that was a lot of what fueled the inside, what fueled my addiction, and I had a lot of pain from that divorce, and didn't really know how to get rid of it and how to process it right. And unfortunately, in reality, that's something that I just recently did process and had a conversation and got over some pretty serious resentments and worked those out, because like I told you, like this is something that's very serious to me now, so I have to get inside and figure out what types of things are bothering me, and that was a big deal. So divorced family.
Because I didn't mean to bring it up, but I actually did, because that childhood trauma, and we hold on to that and we don't even realize it.
Right.
And we go through life and we're grown ass men and we don't get depressed and we don't get sad about that. And you've never been married, right?
No.
I've never been married either. We've talked about, we have so much in common. Like it's crazy,
right.
From past stuff that's happened in relationships, and it's just like, wow, you too? Like, oh my God, like that's crazy. And the reason why I brought up the divorce thing is, you told me it took its toll on you. Went from this house to that house, and you get away with this over there, and you wanted this, and women, and then smoke some pot, and then drink, and it took its toll. And to be able to be a grown man and to know that, hey man, I can deal with this now. Like that is something from my past, and yeah, I was a kid, but it did affect me.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that. I had to get over abandonment, because my dad, man, I loved him when I was a kid, and stepmom, she was kind of mean, put it nice, but loved him. And then he just moved away, and it was like, wait, what? Like just ghost in the night? Wait, how are you going to leave your 2 sons? I still can't get over that, but I don't have to. It's not for me to know. But for me to know that I dealt with abandonment issues, and I'm a 42-year-old man, and I just came to terms with them recently. But that was one of the things that was keeping me stuck, and playing it back and like going back through each relapse and each time, it makes perfect sense, like, of course, and when I move away to do radio and I'm living in Dallas and in Arkansas and there's no family around, yeah, I'm going to feel lonely. And what are you going to do? At least for me, it was drink. And
yeah, me too. And I totally understand where you're coming from. And I think there was a huge sense of abandonment there and a lack of understanding of why, and I think I took a lot of that very personal, when in all reality, it wasn't necessarily about me, but I took that very personal and was very hurt over it. And like you said, it continued for a long time, even though I thought I'd resolved the issues. It continued and festered, and I just recently worked those things out, because it was necessary, and it's necessary for me to stay on the right path of recovery, to work those types of things out. So that's just one more thing that obviously you and I have in common. So
what do you do? I assume that, since you're in early recovery, do you keep in contact with some of the people you're in treatment with?
I do. And that's there's some that are a big part of my daily life.